Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Shochu'sday and episode number 49, which is not a well, it's a prime number, isn't it?
I
But
believe so.
I can't think of any special uniform numbers or anything of significance that is related to 49, can you?
Not off the top of my head, at least not during my first cup of coffee.
Yeah, first cup. Okay, we'll leave the
Yeah,
the brain racking level activities off to the sideline for now. But
but we are
everybody out there, sorry, go
we are
ahead.
th we are 3 weeks away from 52, a full year of this.
Yeah, we haven't skipped a week, which is pretty incredible. We
That's right.
haven't taken a week off on this thing. As I've said for several months now, this is the most consistent thing in my life, I believe, at the moment, which is great. It is great. And we're learning how to refine it. We've moved to a new platform, and well, welcome back. Just as a reminder to everybody, Show Tuesday every every week, same time, same place. If you're reaching us from Facebook or you're reaching us from YouTube, fantastic. Please pop a comment and we can react in real time. And I guess the first question for everybody out there is, what are you drinking? Because that's what we do on
Yeah,
Show Tuesday normally.
that's right. For me, it's
Yep.
coffee.
Me, it's coffee too. I do have something to sip on later, of course, but yeah. Let's see
Yeah,
the first thing I guess that we need to talk about, and I'm looking to the side because I'm looking at all these banners that are at my disposal and I still don't know how to use very well. Where
some
is it?
some point we'll figure this out and not look like amateurs, huh?
I know. It'll be another year from now probably. There it is. I found it. That's what
That's
we
right.
want.
We have a new Japan Distilled podcast episode up. It was released on Monday. It's on differences between Japanese shochu and Korean soju,
Right.
and where their places are in their respective cultures and production differences and things like that. So it's a fun episode. We recorded it very early, so it actually recommends people watch us on Instagram because
Yeah.
we recorded it before we switched over here. But it's it. I think people were nowhere to find us. At least they'll figure it out pretty quickly when they go looking for us on Instagram. We're not there.
Yeah. I hope so. It's shochu versus soju. I mean, just the pronunciation alone is tricky. How many people do we know who we talk to about these drinks all the time that still pronounce it sochu
Yeah,
or some other amalgamation
or,
of
yeah,
those
or
similar
shoju.
sounding shoju, yeah, shoju,
I think
soshu.
I think sochu or soshu is the most common mispronunciation.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
At least that
so it
I've
is a
that we hear.
that's right. Yeah, if you hear other ones, let us know. We'd be curious
Yeah,
what other people hear.
let's
And
assemble
if
a
you're
whole.
if you're
Yeah,
still
go ahead.
mispronouncing shochu, stop. Please stop. It's not a
It's so
difficult word
easy.
to pronounce.
It is.
It's show and chew. It's two verbs. Come on.
That's all it is. Yeah, just think of it as
Yeah.
Showchew, and if you
Yeah.
pronounce it like that, you're more than 2/3 of the way there.
No, you're
Um,
95% of the way there.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, just take it upon yourself
Sure.
to remember how to say it.
And I have to say, Christopher, you were really well behaved on that episode.
I
I've
know.
I've heard
I listened
I've
to
heard
it
some.
again. I was like, I was
Yeah.
really nice, wasn't I?
Yeah. Yeah. Christopher, having lived in Korea and having visited soju distilleries, has thoughts, but
I
he
do.
was polite. Like we gotta do a new episode on that topic in the future to let your hair down a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe because it was early days on reporting the podcast, and I didn't or recording the podcast. I don't think I wanted to make any enemies right off the start, and also we were drinking. We do a tasting actually. We crack a couple of bottles open during the podcast, which is not something we normally do. And don't worry, it's quick, it's painless when you listen to it. but we taste something that's kind of a half decent, more recent product out of Korea, which is not indicative at all of the green bottle soju that everybody's used to seeing. It's a totally different animal. And I think maybe that's another thing that we were preparing for while speaking. We didn't want to have the real thoughts because we weren't sure about how that brand was going to sip, and it turned out to be kind of nice. It's also incredibly expensive.
It was.
So.
I actually finished that bottle. The little green bottle is still in the back of my fridge.
I think I poured that out.
Ooh.
I did. It did not. It did not survive the cut. There's a premium on fridge space, and
on the rare occasions when I order Korean food for delivery, I leave it in there for those times.
Gotcha. It doesn't. In my experience, and maybe things have changed, is you can't leave a half-open bottle of the stuff. It's not. It changes a little bit, I think. It's not. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things have. Maybe the stability has improved over the years. But I do recall when I lived there that basically half-empty bottles were not worth their weight in anything after a couple of hours.
Well, a half-empty bottle would be about 60 cents worth of drink over there, wouldn't it?
If that. Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyways, new podcast. Please check it out wherever you consume podcast content. Easiest place to remember is just to head to the Japan Distilled website and listen to it there. All right. Yep. Moving on. Sorry.
Well, just on the podcast. Just on the podcast, I would say if there are topics you'd like for us to cover, just hit us up. Let us know. You can leave us messages on Facebook, on YouTube. Contact us on Instagram, Twitter, wherever. Email us if you got our email addresses. Just let us know what else you'd like to hear about. I think we got 5 additional episodes lined up and planned, maybe 6. But we're definitely open to suggestions. We want to bring you the Japan Distilled related content you hope for on the podcast. And it's fun for us to, especially for Japanese spirits traditions that we're not so familiar with, it's fun for us to go explore them.
Yeah,
sure. Japanese rum was a discovery. We got a much better understanding of Japanese whiskey through going through that research process. So we will be doing gin, I believe eau de vie as well. A couple more that we have planned. But if there are other spirits you'd like to hear about, let us know.
Yeah. Well, moving on from there, let's
we have a question from
Harry.
Sorry,
I'm not looking.
Yeah. Harry Rosenblum, who's owner of the
Harry,
Brooklyn Kitchen. He wrote the book about vinegar revival. Excellent book. I have it in my library. Unfortunately, my library is inside.
I got it right here.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yep.
I use that as my cookbook now for anything pickles or vinegar related. Really nice recipes. Great explanation about how to make your own vinegar at home and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend it. And Harry chimed in, isn't it confused further by labeling in California? This is shochu and soju, and that's a big part of the episode. The California labeling laws allow distilled spirits bottled at 24% alcohol or less to be sold with a beer and wine license in bars and restaurants in California. So most restaurants don't even have hard liquor licenses in California, unlike other states where if you want to serve spirits, you've got to have the hard license. So, but it has to have the word soju on the label, but it doesn't have to be made in Korea. So probably 15 years ago or so, a lot of shochu makers ended up labeling their shochu as soju. In fact, some of them have been known occasionally to put the word soju on the label more than once, which is just unforgivable. Yep. But yeah, talk about market confusion. Something we're definitely trying to clear up with that episode, explaining the differences.
Yep. So yeah, great comment, Harry. Thank you for that. And if anybody else has any comments or questions, please feel to drop them in there. We may get around to them later. For the time being, the main part of the show and the title is, well, this is kind of a hybrid of the title, but something we wanted to go back to was Okinawa. And you'll notice that Stephen and I are both wearing kariyushi, which are essentially the Okinawan aloha shirt, often with themes of flowers and fruit and dragons and surfboards and palm trees and all sorts of lovely tropical moods and themes. It's been about a month since
It has been.
we were, I guess, since I came back anyway. Maybe a little bit longer for you.
Yeah, 6 weeks for me.
Debrief, I
So-
guess.
Yeah, I will. Full disclosure, this is actually an Aloha shirt. I was not fortunate enough to get a.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well,
Okinawan version. I'll have to take care of that next time I visit.
yeah,
but I was more focused on.
Mine's hard to see, but these are pineapples, and I did
Nice.
buy this in Okinawa, so I believe that qualifies it as a kariyushi.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw those shirts on racks in stores, but I was too busy hunting for rare and unexpected awamori to pay attention. I think I came back with 17 liters of awamori. So it was a pretty good haul.
Mm.
Most of that was shipped. I didn't actually carry that all back in my luggage.
Yeah, and probably wouldn't
Yeah.
let you on the plane with that much liquid in there.
I don't think so. But I really wanted this episode to be about your reflections. I mean, I was there for a week, which was my longest visit, but you were there for a month, which was your longest visit. You actually escaped the hay fever season in Tokyo to spend a month down there, and I'd really like to get your perspective on how your thoughts about Okinawa and awamori and the culture evolved or shifted or changed over that month, and whether or not you just have anything you'd like to share. Because I feel like that would be a life-changing experience. I remember when I spent a month in Kyoto, for example, I didn't really have an appreciation for Kyoto until I did that. Having visited day or two here, day or two there, I was like, yeah, it's a really touristy area with lots of temples and shrines and, touristy restaurants and things like that. But spending a month there with the people, going to local restaurants, staying in residential neighborhoods was a much different experience. So wondering how your impressions of Okinawa might have evolved.
Yeah, I mean, I had been there for a week at a time, probably 10 times before, so I don't feel like it was a really lengthy amount of time by comparison. A month is a month, but I was so busy most of the time, so I felt like it wasn't something where I got sick of it, that's for sure. I mean, a lot of people back here were like, Akinai, didn't you get sick of it? Didn't you like get tired of being down there? And the answer is absolutely not. I don't feel like I was down there long enough. And I wish I could go back. At one point I was looking at prices on apartments to try and buy one to make sure I always have a landing pad when we go back down. And it's a lovely, it has a very, very strong draw for me, as it always has. Now, has that been enhanced? Yes. What's different? I guess I don't know if it's necessarily a better understanding of Okinawa, but I definitely have a much better standing of Naha now, the main city down there on the Big Island. And that's kind of cool because, going for our walks every day and exploring a new part of the neighborhood, it's just something I never would have had the time to do. And sometimes all it takes is going those 2 extra blocks back off the main drag, and you discover another world. So that was kind of cool, and to be almost a regular at some of the little markets and shops there for a month was kind of fun. And people there's a lot of this small talk that you start to get into once people feel like you kind of live, once they figure out that you're not a tourist necessarily and you're gonna be there for a while, even though I did end up leaving only a month later. But one thing that I found that was really interesting and I really appreciated, I think I mentioned this while we were down there, is that people tend not to automatically dig into your background. I mean, in other parts of Japan, the first question out of people's mouths is, where are you from? And that's a natural question, but does it have to be so important to everyone? That has to be the first thing that you learn about me, or they're like, "Why are you here? What do you do?" I feel like I'm being interrogated sometimes, and it's really just other people trying to get their heads around how to approach a conversation. But
Mhm.
that's my experience elsewhere in Japan. Down in Okinawa, I didn't get even 10% as much of that. Mostly people were just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they would wait for a significant amount of time to get to those more personal questions. I guess the who, what, where, when, why, and how. They would wait until they
Interesting.
actually decided whether they wanted to have or maybe a second conversation with you before they
Hmm.
would get into that stuff. And they had assumptions, and they had probably reasonably accurate guesses on some of them, but they didn't get into it. And I kind of appreciated that.
Sure. No, that's an interesting observation. I actually had that experience yesterday. As you know, I'm taking tennis lessons, and it's a group tennis lesson. So it's always me and usually a group of Japanese housewives.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the kids are off to college or a little bit older. That's typically who's in the class. And there was a new woman in the class yesterday. And before the class started, she's walked up to me and she said, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm
Okay.
from America." And she said, "But which country?" And I realized what she meant was which state.
Yeah,
But
sure,
it'd been
sure,
a while
sure.
since she'd used English. And, bless her heart, the reason she wanted to talk to me was to tell me that she had lived in Boston. And that was the point of the conversation. But it was
Boy,
just,
that would have been disappointing if you weren't from America then.
yeah, right.
Yeah. I feel bad for people from Europe, from Africa, from Australia, from all over the world who don't happen to be from a major city in North America. Then it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I don't know anything about that place.
right.
I,
Well, it's
I was
probably
hoping you were going to be from the States.
major European cities probably work too, in some cases.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
At least travel
but
wise.
yeah. But to her credit, she did come up to me and speak English, and gave it the old college try. So, but yeah, it felt a little bit invasive. Um, it might have been because I was wearing a Satsuma Shiranami T-shirt, and so there was no indication of where I was from. It might have been from Kagoshima.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's probably a topic for another day. As you know, I I don't always enjoy being treated like an alien, so I appreciate places where I am left alone or assumed to be an equal until proven otherwise.
Mhm.
And I will pretty quickly let you know that I'm a weirdo, so maybe I need to be handled differently. But benefit of the doubt, and I felt like I kind of got that in a lot of places. It was also nice just because there wasn't much tourism going on, so there there was none actually, and therefore people actually treated us as though we lived in Okinawa because they assumed that anybody that was there in March was probably living there. So that was
Mhm.
cool too. So maybe that adds to it. But that was one thing. It was really nice to connect with some new people, to see some old friends, and to find some new places. Now on the Awamori point, obviously I was able to try a lot of new stuff. I was able to sip through some things that are not available elsewhere, some things that have disappeared completely, and that was a lot of fun. Every place I was going into, especially if it was a good place or a place recommended to me by other people who love awamori, I would just go in saying, "Okay, what do you have here that I can't get anywhere else?" And they'd be like, "It's expensive." I was like, "I don't care. I want to try it." And they were like, "Okay." And then they'd go up top shelf at the back. "Well, this is probably the last bottle of this that I know of." And it's like, "Okay, we will be sipping that." And that was a lot of fun because you're getting into kusu, right? You're
Mhm.
kusu, the aged awamori, the clay, usually, oftentimes, not always, clay pot aged awamori that is very, very smooth, round, velvety, vanilla-y, little bit of mushroomy funk with a lot of fruit sweetness in there as well, and those things are so much
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was,
you just described my favorite drink. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So that was good. I tried so many new things, and I can't
Any
wait to go
any
back for that
specific
reason.
distillery discoveries? I mean, I know you've tried lots of Awamori in the past, but any distilleries you have newfound appreciation for?
Yeah, I mean, things that I didn't drink as much before that I probably drink more of now because of the trip is Miyanotsuru is
Mhm.
one. So I ended up finding there was a Lawson, a convenience store near where I was staying, that had 600 milliliter bottles of that for 1,000 yen, which is ridiculously cheap. I mean, you can't get that stuff in most places. I think it was actually a mistake in the
Mhm.
way that they had put it into their system, because the shelf price, the shelf talker, said something like 3,300 yen for a little bottle of this stuff, 600 milliliters.
Mhm.
And I was like, what the hell? I need a home sipper, and I know this is good. So I took it to the counter. They beeped it. It was only 1,000 yen. I was like, whoo. And I was like, I half wanted, because I have, my better angel was like, you got to tell them they undercharged you. It's like, yeah, but this is a chain convenience store. They probably don't make those types of mistakes. So maybe the shelf talker has a mistake, because it was handwritten too. They
Okay.
had Mian. This is the only time I've ever seen a convenience store that had awanami, that crazy rare stuff from Haterumajima, on a shelf in a convenience store.
That's
And that
nuts.
was way, the sticker price on that was also marked up. And I was half tempted to go in there and pull a bottle of that and see what price came up for it, but I also didn't want to have to pay for it, at least at those inflated prices. But the Miyano no Tsuru was 1,000 yen, so I bought several 600s of them. Went in once a day for a few days to clean out the shelf, and yeah, I don't I they know who I am because I use my point card, so they're gonna be like, this jerk.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he knew he got a deal, so he made off with the whole thing. So, I don't know. I feel no shame. I beat the system. But that, I guess
How many
that's it.
bottles? How many bottles did you bring back?
I total. I shipped a few. I didn't bring that many back. I think I probably brought. Including shipments, I might have brought back a clean dozen bottles or so. So that's
Mhm.
a little less than 10 liters probably of awamori. I have so much of it just shipped here all the time because I do a lot of target practice on Yahoo auctions. And so I don't necessarily need to have that. I didn't need to bring it back with me. The last bottle that I got, it's actually right here, and stuffed in. I brought it in a bag as carry on, is this, the Japanese rice one that
Oh yeah.
you and I both, Yaeyama, and very limited release stuff every year. I only have this one bottle. I'll wait until I get a second one before I crack this open, just so I have backup. But yeah,
Sound like a collector to me.
yeah. Unfortunately, got to knock that crap off. Yeah, but it was good. Other observations. Okinawa is great in March because it's not too hot
Hmm.
yet.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, it was nice. It was
Very nice.
relatively decent sleeping weather. Mosquitoes aren't out really, and not so much pollen or allergens, at least not ones I'm used to in the air. So my sinuses worked for a whole month, which was pretty cool. It's always enjoyable. And we I got to be honest, we were just perfectly lucky. We timed that so well because we had booked it was just a brainwave. It was a spur of the moment thing in the middle of the winter. It's like, you know what? We don't have to be here. We work from home. We can work from anywhere. Let's get the hell out of Tokyo. So we booked it March 1st. There was a lockdown, a pseudo lockdown that was in place until February 28th. So we arrived. This was not planned. We arrived the day after things opened. They hadn't closed, but the day after there was an easing. And then, guess what happened? April 1st, a new lockdown went into place. We left on March 31st. This was like, we just blocked we rented a place for a whole month. and it was the 31 days where there was this easing of tensions or easing of business hours and things related to Corona, what's the word? Defenses. So we were incredibly lucky. And you could notice the first week we were there, everything was dead. It opened up a bit more while you were there. During the second week, it got a little bit more exciting and moving on and further and further. Then I started to see wedding parties and things like that. The final weekend we were there. And then sure enough, they were like, nope, you people aren't responsible enough. We're going to have to lock it down again, and we're going to restrict business hours once more. And I am sure that place is going to be chock filled with tourists from all over Japan for Golden Week, which is starting at the end of this week. Is it not?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I can attest to what you were describing. When I arrived, I actually was there from Sunday to a week, the following Monday. So basically 8 days. Flew in on the Sunday, flew out on the Monday, and the first Sunday night, you and I were looking for a place to have a drink, and it was a ghost town.
Yeah,
it was really difficult to find a bar that was open after about 9 o'clock. And then, we finally found a bar where it was just basically us and the bartender, and he had the window open. We just sat by the window and had a couple sips, and nice relaxing evening. The next Sunday, a week later, is the first day that U.S. military is allowed off base in months and allowed to go to central Naha, and they're supposed to be in restaurants, but most restaurants serve copious amounts of booze, so every place was jammed.
Yeah.
Right, as we were walking around, and then all the bars were open just a week later. And you and I were still making sure to sit outdoors and keep our masks on when we were chatting with the staff and that sort of thing. But it was such a contrast in just a week. And so I can imagine if it got even more open after that, that was not necessarily a good thing, because as people probably know, I think maybe even as of now, around 1% of Japan has been vaccinated, if that. It's a very, very low percentage. And so, everybody's flying without a net. So little scary when you see things like that. But but I guess there weren't at that time, there weren't a lot of cases, Okinawa either.
True.
Right.
Yeah, we still aren't seeing big caseloads just because there's not a lot of testing. That's certainly the case in Tokyo. They just don't test a whole lot. If you want to, I don't know where I would go to get a test. I'm sure it would be quite a
Lawson?
Process.
Family Mart.
They should. Yeah.
You can get everything else there.
No kidding. Jeez. Hello, Smarley. Smarley just left a comment as well. It's quite a long one, so I'm not going to put it up here. But she's on Facebook, and she's bringing us back to the whole soju it's not dichotomy. It's a conflict, basically. Misinformation, miscommunication. Mislabeling. It's fraudulent. And I gotta say, when you label something as something that it's not, that's fraud. But anyways, we get into it a little bit in the podcast episode number 11 on the site right now. If you are interested, japandistilled.com. Last bit, we're gonna round this out. We've resolved, you'll be happy to know, we've resolved to keep these things to closer to 30 minutes rather than closer to 45 minutes moving forward. All of you good people out there. So the last little bit that I want to get to, I can't find the damn banner. They need to find an easier way to sort these banners. There it is. Okay. This is always going to be part of the show, I think. We need to talk about
sticking
something
with the Okinawan theme. I opened Harusame recently, which is really, really excellent. This is kari. So this is their standard expression, 30% alcohol. These guys are interesting. They're actually in Naha. They're not too far from the downtown area. And they do aged products, but they don't age in ceramic. That's what I find really interesting for them. They're really, really small outfit. But their aged stuff's really interesting as well, even though it's being aged in in stainless.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you introduced me to them originally, and I'd become a fan. Turns out one of the nicer bottle shops in my neighborhood has them stocked regularly, both this and I think their 8-year available, which I do have, but I haven't opened yet. But yeah, really,
so good.
really nice drink. As I've run out of my other unaged or younger awamori, this is what I've started putting in my coffee, which is a little bit baller to be using Harusame in coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, Harusame is a incredibly hard to find awamori that is. Yes, it's made in downtown Okinawa or in downtown Naha, I would say. Downtown, maybe not downtown. It's between the airport and the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tiny. It's a really tiny place, and they're very well respected. But you can't get it. Well, I can't get it. You clearly can get it. I have to order it. Yeah, I also went.
The distillery reminds me of Fenway Park. Not because they have a green monster. No, because with Fenway Park, as you're approaching the stadium from certain directions, you have no idea there's a major league ballpark within.
I see.
300 meters or 300 yards of you until you round a corner, and then suddenly there's masses of people, and then you finally start to see parts of the building, because it's not a very tall building. Fenway Park is not, unless you see the light towers, you're not really aware that there's a ballpark there, unlike larger stadiums in other cities where you can see it from miles away. And Harusame is like a 1-story building tucked away in a residential neighborhood, and you just round a corner and suddenly you're like, oh, wait a minute.
It's kind of down a slope a little bit, and it's just, it's
like tucked back around some other buildings, and it's just really unexpected place to have a distillery. And then it's low ceilings. It's just a, tight little space. But yeah, really nice. But yeah, what have you opened recently, Christopher?
I just recently opened, and I've got a couple bottles of this, so I sometimes run through. I've got Yuki Hocho, which is made by Taragawa, and it's it's lovely. I poured a little bit just because I really do enjoy the aroma on this, what I guess would be called a shinshu. It's not shinshu, but it just hasn't been aged that long. But it's still
Ippanshu, is that what they call it?
Ippanshu, yeah, the general. And I love how marbled it is. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it's probably impossible for you to see with this camera, but it's got really good body to it, and it's only 30% alcohol. Very nicely aromatic, and I really enjoy this as kind of my home sipper right now. And it's purely because I have several bottles of it. But what do we got now? I can't hear you. What'd you do? Did your headphones die? We lost audio. Oh, there you go. You're back.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, my AirPods died. They're getting old.
Yeah, that wasn't very long at all. Okay, well, so that we don't annoy the piss out of your neighbors, let's wrap this up, because now they're hearing everything that's going on, and we're past 30 minutes. Good morning. Hello to Chris in Knoxville.
Oh, Gankutsu, nice. Miyazaki rice shochu. That was an old favorite of mine. I will talk for a moment about the Yuki Hocho. That's actually my favorite awamori available in the States. At least some things you can find normally. And I given the depth of flavor, I think they have to be adding a little bit of older spirit in there. It's a little bit of a blend, because it's just way too rich and flavorful for a young awamori, in my experience.
Definitely possible. They just wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't, be able to really advertise that fact unless at least 51% of the blend was the 3-year, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, but really lovely drink for sure.
Yeah, this is good. This is waking me up. I probably should stick to the coffee, but I'm gonna give this a go anyway. All right. Well, I guess as a reminder, where's that ticker? I'm going to have to throw this up there now. As a reminder, we will be back next week, of course, and it's going to be our 50th episode. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to theme that show. We need to come up with something good, though.
Yeah.
Um,
but then 2 weeks later, we've got our 1 year anniversary. So,
crap.
What's more important?
Every episode is important. That's my official answer.
Agreed.
We're gonna have to have a think about this. If anybody has an idea, then let us know. We may also need to get a guest on to join us and do an interview. All right. Well,
we haven't done that in a while.
We have not, and that's not cool. We need to have guests, I think.
Sometimes co-host Maya Bailey. I don't think that she counts as a guest anymore.
She's an official, like, Kagoshima Corner type of giving us an update on what's going on down south. Oh, This is so good. All right, I'm gonna keep enjoying the nose on this until my next appointment at the hour.
Great.
Yeah, good show. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Everybody out there, everybody out there around the world, stay happy, stay safe from both of us here in Japan, coming to you live on this 49th edition of Shochu'sday. A very hearty and heartfelt kanpai.
Cheers.
Kanpai.